Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Hello everyone, welcome to Basics Discussion Circle and Meditation. My name is Travis, I facilitate this group. So in this class, typically we go through one fold of the Eightfold Path each month, but as I'm winding down hosting these classes, this is my second to last class, next week will be the last one. As I'm winding them down, I just wanted to go through the different divisions of the Eightfold Path. So you have 8 factors of the Eightfold Path, but they're further divided down into virtue, concentration, and discernment, or morality, meditation, and wisdom, whatever translation you want to use. So last week we talked about the moral or the virtue division of right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Tonight we'll touch on the concentration or meditation aspect, which is right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So we'll touch on that after the meditation. I always like to, because this is intended to be a discussion-based group, I like to go through the room. If we could say our name and if it's your first time here or you're relatively new, why you decided to come. But if you've been practicing a while, why have you decided to continue coming? So my name is Travis. I'm here because I host this class. That's why I decided to come tonight. But in general, I've gotten a lot out of being a part of this community for the past 12 years. So that's why I'm here.
My name is David, and this is my second time here, not to this class. But I've always kind of had an interest in Buddhism and meditation, so I'm trying to learn more.
My name is Carol. This is my third time in this class, and I think my 4th week overall that I've been coming. I'm looking for some inner peace. I feel like I've been on a journey for a long time. And I'm searching.
I've been coming here for quite some time. I keep coming back because this class is run from you. I come here. And it helps me make me a better person. Slight improvement.
My name's Art, and I've been coming here for a while. Actually, I've tried Buddhist recovery done it for a couple of years. There was a lot of stuff going on in my life, and this is helping me find that inner peace and calmness.
My name is Tristan. I came here because I wanted to do some meditation because I found it's been very helpful in my life. And I also want to check this place out. It just happens to be not too far from where
My name is Robin. I've been practicing for many years. I've come to this temple maybe just in several months. And I came to your class because I knew you were almost done. And my friend Nirmal keeps telling me you know a lot. So I wanted to tap into some of your wisdom.
No promises.
Hello, everybody. My name is Baxter. This is actually my first time in this group, but I've been coming to the temple for a while. I just happened to be free tonight, so I wanted to come. And then Robin also said that it was like nearly the end, so I was like, I better get in before your time, obviously, at least once. So glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Roberto. I've been coming to the temple for about 5 years. It just keeps showing up. I keep coming back because over the years, the Buddhism has allowed me to accept the world as it is, without quite as much suffering on my part. And I'd like to think that it's made me a little bit more accommodating because of that. Thank you.
My name is Sabrina, and I've been here for probably a couple months, but I've been coming to this temple. This is the first time in this class. I just wanted to come here at 7, and this is what was happening, so it's great. And I keep coming back because I find that I have been adapting some discussion on topics in my lifestyle, and it kind of gives me sort of like a new perspective that I don't normally see. So I like that because I've been already finding some positive changes within my thought processes. So I'm excited to learn more. Okay.
I'm Brendan. I relatively new. My John got me. I've always had interest in meditation and learning more about it, but John kind of brought me here. He's been coming a while, so yeah, really enjoy the meditation.
My name's John. I'm relatively new to this class, but I come here quite a bit. I do it because I'm not very good at keeping my life kind of in balance. Just go all into work or on to whatever, and I come here because I kind of get the bigger picture again. I can breathe a little easier.
So thank you everyone for sharing. Tonight we'll go into the meditation because the topic this month is the meditation or concentration factor of the path. We'll do a breath meditation, basically the way that the Buddha taught breath meditation. In the Anapanasati Sutra, the mindfulness of in and out breathing, the Buddha gave 16 steps for breath meditation. We won't go through all 16, but that's the Anapanasati Sutta, and you're welcome to look it up at home. We'll just go through the first few steps, and then maybe if anyone's particularly curious, I'll pull it up and go through them. But yeah, so throughout the meditation, I may be giving instruction like breathing in through the eyes and the ears, or in through the back of the head, or down through the top of the head. This is, please don't literally do that, but this is a perceptual exercise to work sensation of breath throughout the body. So the sensation of breath is very much a tension, relaxing sensation. And it's simple enough to say soften the forehead or relax the shoulders, but it's a bit more challenging to relax tension in the center of the chest or the center of the head. So we use the breath as kind of a way of informing the body that we would like to relax those patterns of tension. The other benefit of working the breath through the body is we gain a deeper awareness of the body from within, from the inside. And with meditation, with concentration practice, we're trying to cultivate this present moment awareness of mental phenomena, of bodily phenomena as it's arising. So instead of being all cramped up here in this little ping pong ball getting knocked around the world, we're inhabiting the body. So we're less likely to get bashed about by the waves. Yeah. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Closing the eyes, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. and settling into a natural rhythm of breathing. You could even pose the question in the mind as to what kind of breathing would be the most calming or the most energizing, and simply observe how the breath responds. As you maintain this focus on the breath, notice if you're holding on to any tension around the process of breathing itself. If there's a sense of forcing the breath in or squeezing it out, and see if you can drop that, allowing breath in, allowing breath out. A lot of what we're doing here is simply getting out of our own way. And take a minute to question how you perceive breath and awareness. Do you perceive them as two separate things? What happens if you hold the perception that breath and awareness are one thing, one fluid activity? Without the breath, awareness would die away. Without awareness, you wouldn't notice the breath. So they could be thought of as one thing, this breath awareness. And with that perception in mind, you can begin working breath awareness throughout the body, starting down in the abdomen, the area around the stomach. Noticing sensation of breath awareness in that part of the body. Noticing any patterns of tension or tightness there. And seeing if you can allow breath awareness to flow through the tension, dissolving it away all the way through the in-breath and keeping it relaxed all the way through the out-breath. With tension in the abdomen relaxed, gently raising breath awareness up into the center of the chest and the area around the heart. Repeating the same process there. Noticing how the breath feels in the chest. Noticing any sense of tension or tightness. And consciously relaxing it. If you want, you could even imagine the breath coming in right there at the heart, so you don't have to push or pull it from anywhere else. Breathing in, breath awareness flows into the heart, soothing the heart. Breathing out, it radiates out, opening the chest. With the heart spacious and relaxed, you can raise breath awareness up one last time into the center of the head. And as you breathe in here, you can imagine the breath coming in not only through the nose, but in through the eyes and the ears, the back of the head, down through the top of the head, gently flowing deep into the brain, soothing mental tension. And as you breathe out, you can imagine the breath radiating out in all directions, dissolving tension in the scalp and the forehead, the area around the eyes, the jaw. With breath awareness and the head spacious and relaxed, you can allow this breath awareness to melt down to fill the body, down the arms and the spine, down through the legs, melting away tension. Dropping the shoulders, unclenching the hands, relaxing tension in the back, down the legs, relaxing the hips and the knees, and down and out through the feet, soothing tension. And lastly, with this breath meditation, we'll take these various areas that we focused on throughout this session and string them together in our awareness. So we're aware of the entire body as we breathe in, and we're releasing tension throughout the entire body as we breathe out. A good way to go about this is to settle down into whatever area you found it easiest to remain focused, where there was a sense of the breath being nourishing, and make that your anchor, gradually expanding out from that point to fill the body. From the crown of the head to the soles of the feet. And before we open our eyes in a moment, it's good to remind yourself that just because the eyes are opened and you're engaging in the world again, doesn't mean the mind has to go flowing back out with them. You can still maintain a body-centered awareness as you go about your day, as a solid foundation to speak from, to act from. This embodied awareness. And with that thought in mind, when you're ready, you can open the eyes and stretch if needed. So as always, after meditation, I'm curious to hear if anyone would like to share how that experience was for them. Whether you found it easy or difficult, straightforward, confusing, or whatever else you may be sitting with in this moment.
I found that putting breath and awareness together is really, really
That's an instruction I used to give it a lot. I haven't given it recently. This quality of stringing together breath and awareness has been really helpful for me, because they are basically the same thing. I mean, that when you're focusing on a part of the body and you're feeling sensation there, you're only feeling sensation there because your awareness is directed there. The breath is a lot more than just the air coming in and out of the lungs. It's the sense of movement throughout the entire body. And putting breath and awareness together is really helpful too, because instead of feeling like there's this observer and object, and I have to do this with the breath, but I have to be aware of it, and it feels like you're keeping track of multiple things. When you hold the perception in mind that they're the same thing, it drops a lot of the legwork.
I become more continuous.
Yeah. And one bit that I also used to do, but I just didn't, we didn't have time tonight. I didn't want to make it a 45-minute meditation. Was near the end, I would say, to readjust the perception of considering if breath awareness and body are two separate things or if they're one thing. And that further unifies the awareness in the body. So another thing to play with. Would anyone else like to share?
Are there any tricks to, if you get tired or sleepy?
Yes. Do what we did in the opposite direction. It's the part that tends to get people the most sleepy is when we're focusing on the head and then we imagine everything melting down. Because that tends to, downward flowing breath tends to calm. So like if we're having a panic attack or an anxiety attack, downward flowing breath is really helpful. I usually do downward flowing breath because anytime I'm speaking in front of the group, I'm actively having a panic attack internally. So we do the downward flowing breath. But upward flowing breath will give energy. Another thing that's really helpful is, so the way that I lead this meditation is different from the way that I do it on my own. A little bit, it's very similar, but we spend about 2.5, 3 minutes on each section of the body. When I'm doing it on my own, I spend about 5 breaths with each section of the body, and go through them multiple times until the mind starts to settle down. And that kind of 5 breaths here, 5 breaths, 5 breaths, 5 breaths, that keeps the mind active because you're moving around a lot more. So you're less likely to fall asleep. The other thing, once it comes to full-bodied awareness, what happens when you start to fall asleep during meditation, the felt experience of it is very much that the awareness starts to shrink, the feeling of awareness starts to shrink. And once it goes down to one little point, it extinguishes and we're asleep. So continuing to, when you notice it shrinking, spread it back out, refill the body. Those are all things that help me. And also, you can open the eyes and keep breathing. That's another,
I found as I'm exploring, and some of these practices have this concentration on breath, what I end up feeling at the end is a sense of self that I have what I need. I have my breath, and my breath is what I need. I don't need from the outside because what I need is already in me, and my breath, the concentration on breath seems to reinforce that. I always say when I leave here, I feel like I have a core of like peaceful strength inside, and the breathing part seems to get me in touch with that. It feels far more powerful than I would have thought before I started coming here.
we're cultivating a relationship with a friend that we can take with us anywhere. And we're being friendly towards ourselves, but also we're befriending the breath through this practice of giving it the attention that we don't normally give it. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's within the passages where the Buddha talks about right concentration or meditation, one of the common lines that he gives is for starting the meditation is setting aside greed and distress with reference to the world, one remains focused on the body in and of itself, or the breath in and of itself. And it's that setting aside greed and distress with reference to the world that's only really possible because we have something internally here that we're cultivating as a healthy substitute, right? A lot of what we're pursuing and desiring out there is junk food compared to the really healthy nutrition that we have here. Anyone else want to share? We have time for one more and then I'll go into the topic. So tonight's topic, as I mentioned at the beginning, is the meditation division of the Eightfold Path. So right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. I can't go super in depth in them in one class. That's why we usually spend a month going through each fold of the path. But so last week we talked about the virtue division of the path. And the virtue division of the path is basically the entire foundation of the practice. We behave in a virtuous or in a moral way. We live, we set the intention for our own well-being, not because of some moral commandment or obligation, but for the sake of our own well-being, we set the intention of not causing harm to ourselves, not causing harm to others, and living our life in a virtuous capacity, being of benefit to others. And what this does is it creates a mind that is a lot less weighed down with remorse and guilt and anger and resentment, because we're not living our lives in a way that promotes all of those things. We're still stuck with however many years that we were living our lives doing those sorts of things or promoting those sorts of things, but we're at least not actively reinforcing those anymore by living virtuously, abstaining from harm in our activities. And that creates a strong foundation, because when we're not doing that, it allows the meditative aspects of the path to really show their full benefit. Because if we're still living in a way that, in a really unskillful way, the benefits of the meditation practice are a lot more like a Band-Aid. They're not giving us the nourishment that we need if we're still doing everything that led to us having to come here on a Thursday night. The meditation won't act as a complete subversion to years of unskillful behavior. It's intended to allow us to slowly dismantle that unskillful behavior in our lives. So when we look at right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, the core of the meditation aspects of the Eightfold Path, I'll start with right effort. right effort, and this is something that a lot of people are surprised about, but when the Buddha talks about right effort, he uses the phrase uh, generating desire for the sake of developing what is skillful, abandoning what is unskillful, and yeah, developing what is skillful and abandoning what is unskillful. So the important thing in there is generating desire. Oftentimes when people come to the Buddhist path, they've heard a lot of things about like non-attachment or or how craving is the root of all suffering. The Buddha used a different word for desire than craving. Desire isn't bad. It's something that's necessary to motivate and propel the path. But what we're doing is we're generating the desire to practice skillful qualities, to cultivate skillful qualities in the mind, and to engage in the world in a skillful capacity. Right effort basically has 4 aspects: guard, abandon, develop, and maintain. So guard against unskillful qualities that haven't yet arisen in the mind. So stop doing all of the stuff that makes unskillful qualities arise in the mind. Abandon any unskillful qualities that have already arisen in the mind. So when we notice that an unskillful quality is present in the mind, present in the heart, we try to dismantle it as if our hair was on fire. That's in another sutra. So when we notice these unskillful qualities in the mind or in the heart, we try to alleviate them through the sense of solidity, the sense of security within the breath, or through other practices like loving kindness or forgiveness practice, if it's relevant to the unskillful quality that's coming up, whether it's anger or resentment or self-hate. And then guard, abandon, develop, and maintain, to develop skillful qualities that aren't yet present in the mind. That can be done pretty straightforwardly by coming here every Thursday at 5 o'clock, where we assemble sandwiches downstairs and pass them out to people who sleep on the streets. It gives a lot of perspective, and it cultivates a mind and a heart of compassion. Guard, abandon, develop, and then maintain. Maintain any skillful qualities that are present in the mind and bring them to their culmination. You look after them in the same way, you look after these skillful qualities of heart and mind in the same way that a mother would look after her child. It's something very precious here that we don't want to just toss aside. It's something we want to cultivate. Because when a seed is planted and watered and looked after, it can become something very beautiful with enough diligent effort. So yeah, that's right effort. Right effort feeds into right mindfulness. Right mindfulness within Buddhist contexts, because of popular kind of pop culture mindfulness movements, it's gotten heavily reduced from what it actually means. Right mindfulness has 3 components: ardency, alertness, and mindfulness. When you think of kind of pop mindfulness, of like bare awareness, that's alertness. So that's 1/3 of what mindfulness is. Ardency is right effort applied to moment awareness. So it's that ability to generate the desire to cultivate something skillful and abandon anything unskillful. And then you have awareness, that which is aware of this process. And then you have mindfulness, which the Pali word sati means to keep in mind. So mindfulness itself isn't just bare awareness, it's also a factor of active memory, recollecting and calling to mind aspects of the path that would be relevant in the present moment. It's also the factor of the Eightfold Path that keeps the rest of the Eightfold Path actively in mind. Because if the Eightfold Path is something that we just read about, and then we go about our day, it doesn't really have much benefit. But if it's something that's actively in the mind, that we're actively referencing, then it shows its benefits. And then moving on to right concentration. Right concentration is the collecting of the mind, that setting aside greed and distress with reference to the world, one remains ardent, alert, and mindful. Or one remains ardent, alert, and mindful, setting aside greed and distress with reference to the world. They remain focused on the breath in and of itself. In and of itself means as it relates within the mind, within the heart, within our awareness, not as the breath relates in biology or something else out in the world. It's the internal felt experience of breath. Meaning when I say something like, hold the perception that breath and awareness are the same thing, they can be the same thing, because that's what our perception is in that moment. We're not pinned down, we're not defined by what something else says the breath can be. The breath can be whatever we perceive it to be. It can be something that comes in straight through the chest. It can be something that flows throughout the entire body. When we define things, we limit them. So if we can learn to play with our perceptions, the breath becomes a really versatile tool that can create a home within the body and within the heart. Yeah. In a slightly broader sense, concentration becomes right concentration when three causes come together to give rise to two effects. Singleness of preoccupation, directed thought and evaluation. Yeah. Singleness of preoccupation, directed thought, and evaluation. When those three qualities come together, meaning we make our preoccupation single, where our awareness is the breath and anything related to the breath. And then this analysis of qualities, we're directing our thoughts towards the breath. And then we're evaluating the breath. Is it constricted? Is it open? Is there something that I'm doing to hamper the breath or pin the breath down? Can I consciously relax that to allow the breath its nature, which is freedom? When singleness of preoccupation, directed thought, and evaluation come together, it can, and for a period of time, it can give rise to rapture and pleasure, a sense of being at home in the body, a sense of fully inhabiting the body, and a sense of kind of refined meditative bliss and enjoyment of being within the body. Some people can experience that as like electricity through the body or warm bubbles or just a sense of completeness. It's different for everyone. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll pause there because I know I just said a lot. There's videos going through each fold of the path on the YouTube channel. You can also Google online. And anyone who's interested afterwards, I can give you a link to all the study guides that I've made about the Eightfold Path. But I'll go ahead and stop there and open up for any questions or comments or anything anyone's sitting with.
So the three path factors you just mentioned, is that basically the topic for the next 3 months?
So that's the topic for the next week, because next week will be my last class that I'm leading for a while. I mean, I'll be back eventually, most likely, but I need a break for a little while. So yeah, I'm wrapping it up with the three divisions of the path because I had 3 weeks left.
So then I got my understanding of the right concentration is basically it sounds like all the formal meditation practice we're doing is right concentration, not necessarily. It sounds like mindfulness is the practice carried out throughout your life or daily actions, etc.
That could be an accurate, yeah. So effort, mindfulness, and concentration do apply throughout every aspect of our lives. We can practice deep concentration while we're washing dishes or mowing the lawn. But in terms of the Eightfold Path and kind of how the Buddha defined it, with right concentration very much almost always starts with a disciple of the Noble Ones finds shelter under the shade of a tree or in a cave or somewhere else. They arouse ardency, alertness, and mindfulness, setting aside greed and distress with reference to the world. They focus on the body in and of itself, feelings in and of themselves, the mind in and of themselves, mental qualities in and of themselves. So within the definition of the Eightfold Path, it is very much a seated meditation practice or a walking meditation practice or standing or laying down.
Basically a form
Yeah.
exercise.
right effort and right mindfulness apply to that, but they also apply to throughout the rest of our day, more so than right concentration itself. And right concentration also references those certain states that I don't say the name of because then people go down a rabbit hole. But yeah. Any other questions or comments? We have time for a couple more.
I think my question was almost the same as his, is can you practice right concentration in any other, I guess, format or setting other than meditation? Because it sounds like the three things that you do that lead to the two things can only be done while meditating. Like they cannot be done at work or just in, at dinner with your wife or whatever.
Within, there's kind of two different definitions of right concentration. One of them is that very formal definition that I just gave, and then the other one is any unified awareness of mind that is being supported by the other 7 factors of the path. So when we're engaging with people one-on-one, or we're out in the world engaging with people, if we're focused on engaging with them and our mind isn't going everywhere else, we're engaging with them, there's a quality of right speech, right action. There's a quality of virtue. There's a quality of discerning whether something is appropriate to say or not, whether something could potentially cause harm or not. There's all these other factors of the path that are applied in that moment. But it is, in a sense, through concentration and mindfulness that we're applying that throughout the day. So any centered awareness that is drawing on the other 7 qualities of the path coming together is right concentration as well. Does that clarify it a little bit?
A little bit.
Much easier to understand.
This all gets into getting yourself to think the right thoughts. So, I can do all of that and do, but what about those thoughts that aren't good thoughts that creep into your head? I always kind of like, Control Alt Delete. I recognize it, but it's there. I mean, it's so, it's not always right mindfulness or all. So, it's so. Does anybody ever really manage to really, I know it's unskilled thought. How do you get rid of the unskilled thoughts? I guess that's the question I've been asking for the last 10 months. So, what's the ticket?
I do believe it is possible. Because within myself, I have seen a vast reduction of the unskillful thoughts. I think the degree of practice that's required to have no unskillful thoughts is a little bit beyond what I'm willing or able to do at this time, or maybe in this lifetime. But the reduction of unskillful thoughts becomes very apparent even with a couple of weeks of meditation practice. You can begin to notice that you're getting angry less often, or there's maybe 5 seconds before when you used to get like something happens, I get angry. 2 weeks later, something happens, 5 seconds pass, then I get angry. Progress. In terms of how to wrestle with those unskillful thoughts when they arise, one is to recognize that thoughts are going to arise on their own. Just because we're having good thoughts doesn't necessarily mean we're a good person. Just because we're having bad thoughts doesn't necessarily mean we're a bad person. We're just a person having thoughts. And most of those thoughts are momentum from someone else. We're not that person anymore that created the karma that led to those thoughts arising in this moment, right? We're constantly changing, constantly in flux. in terms of how to deal with them when they arise, how to deal with an unskillful thought when they arise, there's a few things that are helpful. One is to just acknowledge it, return to object, acknowledge it, return to object. If that's not working, we can play with it a little bit. Well, why do I think this? Well, what if the opposite is true? To try to get out of our narratives around the unskillful thought. There's a lot of different ways that we could go about it. Noticing, and this is one that I've always said, and you've heard me say it probably 1,000 times now, noticing where we're holding that thought in the body, where the anchor is, where the foothold is in the body that's causing that recurring intrusive thought to come up. The example that I always give is, for me, anger is the pattern of tension for anger starts with the shoulders tensing up, goes down the arm and becomes a fist, because that was my habitual tendency for years. Get angry, punch a wall. Get angry, punch a person. Not anymore, thankfully, but that pattern of tension is still there from habit energy. And by recognizing if I'm having angry thoughts, there's probably tension in the shoulder, there's probably tension in the arm. Consciously relaxing it, that thought loses a lot of its foothold in the present moment. So those are a few things that work. With that, we'll go ahead and close. If you had any questions for me that you wanted to ask, but it's scary in a group, I get it. Feel free to come up and ask me afterwards. If you wanted a link to the handout, to like the Google Docs with all the handouts, you can come up and see me afterwards as well. And then, oh yeah, so my last class will be next week, but starting the following week, there will be some other class to be decided, but there will be another class on Thursday nights at 7. So next week will be my last class, but this time slot will keep going. Yeah. So we'll close with a dedication of merit. If comfortable, please join palms. May any merit gained from tonight's meditation and discussion be dedicated to all those who suffer at this time. May all beings in all directions, without limit or exception, be healthy, safe, joyful, and at ease. May we all be healthy, safe, joyful, and at ease. Metta karuna mudita upeka sangha tea cetasa chaturisam maratva viharati. Sammamunaro bhavena, sammadhammaro bhavena, sammasangharo bhavena, sote hantu nirantaram.
You're going to be greatly missed.